Hey, how you doing? I was going over some things we're going to talk about tonight. Several years ago, I wrote my first book, Notes to My Sons. You can pick it up on Amazon.com. One of the chapters of the book is titled, Please Don't Say I Do If You Really Don't. The inspiration for this book was actually from a number of posts that I was writing on Facebook that was geared towards manhood and you know, making decisions and just kind of like fatherly advice that a father might give to a son. And in the particular chapter we're going to talk about tonight, Please Don't Say I Do If You Really Don't, is really talking about, you know, how to be prepared. Are you really ready for marriage? Marriage is a covenant, and you got to be prepared and know what you're getting into before you say, I do. But we're going to talk about it next. Stay tuned.
But it's who I am. And so he had to learn how to say, this is how my wife thinks, and I had to learn how to say, this is how my husband thinks.
I think that the fire in the relationship, in the marital relationship, has to consist of maintaining and never losing the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
If you got stinky people, then you don't want to be around them.
You don't want to be around stinky people.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Because that's what you're going to smell.
Because you what you're going to smell. And 9 times out of 10, if the attitude is bad, it's a stinky person.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the More Marriage Moments.
More moments with marriage, with more. I don't know. No, but welcome. Thank you for joining us again for another episode. And tonight we will be discussing Don't Say You Do
If you don't.
If You Don't. Right?
Please don't say I do.
If you really don't. And as most of you may know, this is coming from one of the chapters out of my husband's book called Notes to My Son. And it kind of piggybacks about, shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
But this, it kind of piggies back off of our last episode from last week.
Right.
Being in love with the ideal of being in love. And we talked a few things about what that really looks like. How do you feel like you're just hanging around, not really in love, but just hanging around with the ideal that somebody actually loves you. And this kind of coincides with that. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this segment.
Let's get started.
All right.
So as I was saying in the start of the introduction, this book was birthed out of some posts that I did on Facebook, and a young man, nephew, not going to put him all out there, but a lot of you know this story. Some of you know the story already. He had said, you know, if you had made those posts, you know, before I got divorced, I might still be married.
Wow.
And so that really stuck with me, and I was like, wow, I need to get this book out. So that's kind of how the book was birthed, and we're hoping that, you know, this book, this segment, will encourage some other people to, you know, before you get ready to take that plunge, make sure you're ready. Marriage is, and we've talked about this, marriage is a covenant. It's a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of the verses, a lot of the ceremonial words, you know, till death do us part.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people try to take out some things. But
Oh, that obey one. They remove obey. Remove obey.
No. You need to be some obeying going on in the marriage.
Help us in
Amen.
our obedience, right? So, but we always say, and we've said it several times over, and I don't think we will ever stop saying that, is that marriage is work. Right? Marriage is work. And I know most of you, when you think about work, you think about, there's a song that comes on TikTok that I sing regularly, and it goes a little something like this. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to work. Right? So that has become one of our favorite morning routines.
My favorite song in the
Yes. One of our favorite routines in the morning. I was like, baby, sing my song. Will you sing my song? He was like, all right. And we just sing. But then guess what we do? We get up
and go to work.
And we get dressed. We go through the process of getting dressed and preparing for work. And so when we talk about that marriage is work, we're not just talking about the ugly sides of work, because there are some moments at work that really make what you do meaningful, right? Meaningful. Yeah. It's nothing like hearing that you are absolutely connected to what you're called to do in life and purpose. And every now and then,
love my job.
And every now and then you have some of those bright moments where you like, I am where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I had one of those moments today. And then on the flip side, right before that moment could really stick and stay, there was another moment and I was like, yeah, maybe, But we understand that work is a process, and work does have benefits to it.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Most of us who you can say, you go to work and you have benefits, healthcare benefits, all of those things. And so when you think about marriage as being work, we don't want you to think about that you always got to dig out of the ditch and all of those things, because that's not the only part of that. There are some benefits, in marriage that you get to enjoy with one another. And so, thank you, Jesus. But so we understand that having a successful marriage will continue and should always be a work in progress. If you ever reach that heightened point where you think, oh, we good, we got it all together, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some breakage and some fall downs, right? And so you understand that every day you get up to keep the process going and performing. So that's what we mean when we say marriage is work. And that kind of comes into our topic, right?
There you go. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is feeling pressured into commitments. Ooh. And I think that more times than not, people kind of feel, for one reason or another, feel pressured or obligated. And that's just like, that's not a good look. That's not a good fit for a lifelong commitment where you feel like, well, I was pressured into this anyway, right? Because she got pregnant, or I
don't have no other alternative.
Oh my goodness!
If I don't marry now, ain't nobody gonna want me. I'm late in my season time. Right. The pressures of commitment. All of my friends are doing it.
All of my friends are married. I need to get married.
I need to get married too. All of those different, or the question that comes: when you gonna get married?
When you gonna get married?
Right. Don't be pressured into a commitment that you yourself know you are not ready for.
Absolutely.
You are not ready for. It is wise. It is so wise to understand where you are in the process. My husband talked about a story. He knew when he was tired of coming home alone.
I was tired of that.
He got tired of that and was like, I need a wife, and I was like, oh, so I was an after. No. But the funny part about that is we were both in the stages of preparation, although we probably resisted some of the preparation because we ourselves had to look at how we viewed marriage. Right. And so at one point it was like, if marriage is what this looks like that I've only seen, then I really don't want it.
And see, to speak to your statement about my statement, the reality of the matter is, you got to get to that place where I want a wife.
Yeah.
I don't want a girlfriend. I don't want, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because she should always be your girlfriend.
Every day.
She should be the only girlfriend.
Every day.
She should be the only wife.
Every day.
And so that's where you have to be. You have to get to a place where you know what? I'm ready for this. This is what I want.
Right.
And it can't be like, maybe, I am getting older, or, there has to be purpose behind your decision.
Right. And then you have to know, even in recognizing if you are ready, you got to know if this person is the right person for you.
Absolutely.
For you. One of the things, I'm so happy to know that he was absolutely the right person for me, right? Because I think I said this is probably episode 1, is that I knew I needed a man that could handle me, all of me, my flaws, my everything. I knew I needed somebody that could handle everything that pertained to Renee, just like God was able to handle everything that pertained to me. Because I know I was a mess by myself. So ain't no sense in being with somebody that is not ready to handle all of you, right? I mean, like all of you, like those unspoken things, all of you, those spoken things, the weighty things, the past of you. You have to know, in making sure that you are ready, that the person that you are connected to has that ability to handle all of you, your flaws, your draws, and all.
Oh my, all of that.
All of that. Yeah.
I was talking about how, marriage and being a lifelong commitment. In the book, I mentioned how there's a story I tell about Pastor Luter and Sister Luter. And when I think of, when I said the words about a lifelong commitment, I remember the church took a trip to Chicago. It was an annual trip to Chicago, and we went to Chicago. And this particular trip, Sister Luter's health she's having some issues with her health, and she couldn't make the trip. And so I remember, it was important for me to go on that trip because I really wanted to support him. And we got to the hotel in Chicago, and he got off the bus, and he was calling her to let her know that we had made it safely to Chicago. And after he hung up the phone, he just, he cried, And it was, I remember thinking like, wow, I mean, they really just, that's just the level of, you could see the love, you could see the commitment, you could see, they were just really two peas in a pod, and so for him not to have his better half, as he used to say, it was just something to see, and you could tell that there was just something off, there was something missing, and that's what you want to you want your marriage to be that. If you're going to be in a covenant, if you're going to be in a commitment, you want it to. People know if they see me 9 times out of 10, she's somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
And it probably used to be 10 times out of 10 when we worked together, because we worked together for many years.
Ooh, yeah. And people always ask, how did you work with your husband, or how did you work with your wife? That was like one of the best seasons of my world, we didn't have the issue of always seeing each other. I think it became an issue when I couldn't see him all the time every day like I was accustomed, or then the phone calls picked up, you know what I mean? Because before it was just like I can look across the field and be like, oh, I'm going over there to see my husband or whatever. But we didn't have those issues. I loved going to work with him, and it was a joy to come home with him, and it wasn't, did you ever get tired of him? Absolutely not. That was good for me. I don't know. Was that good for you, babe?
Amen.
It was good.
And the funny thing, we talked about that before. It's like I wasn't really a clingy person, but I found myself clingy with her. I mean, it wasn't, I never imagined that I would want to see somebody all the time. I would never imagine that, getting up, seeing them, going to work, seeing them, coming home, seeing them would be okay. Like I would have thought that would have been like
too much,
overkill.
right?
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
But it indeed wasn't, because we were made for each other.
Yes. And so, it kind of helps us to understand that even in this process of getting to the work of saying I do is, again, don't let nobody rush your process.
Don't let nobody rush your process. Amen.
Anything worth having.
I keep forgetting we're not in church right now.
I know, I can't help myself some days. Anything worth having is worth waiting for, right? Don't rush the process. Enjoy the journey. Now, he said, I think it was last week, long engagements was not his thing. I'm glad it wasn't. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if I could have. I probably could have, but long engagements was not his thing, which was fine for me. But the process, he had already gone through the steps to get to the process of I do.
Right.
So, and
I think that's a good segue
Yeah.
into, in the book we mentioned, or I mentioned.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the next book we'll write together, hopefully. But in the book, I mentioned 4 points. There are 4 points in this chapter that were like, I have some workbook type stuff, some question and answer type stuff in each section. But there are 4 points in this particular chapter. And we're going to just take a look at each one of the highlighted points from the chapter. The first one is getting you together.
Get you together.
I mean, you need to get you together mentally, emotionally, spiritually,
financially.
It's a big thing to say I do. It's a big thing to commit your life to somebody else. And it's kind of, unless you got a lot of people have this theory or this saying that, how does it go? Where we completed, 2 people became, you know what I'm trying to say?
I became complete because
of you, right? You need to be complete before you get with that other person.
Yeah. Your completeness will enhance the person that you are called to be in commitment with, right? And that's why we say, we went through the process of making sure we were preparing. And I told you the story about how God said, I'm going to prepare you for marriage. And I had to question that because I was like, I'm good single. But the preparation began in being able to handle our finances, to handle his no, to handle how to make sure my family was taken care of, all of those things, because at that point I was on my own and I didn't have that care. I was only concerned about me at that point. My money was my money. Where I went was where I went. What I did was what I did. But then as a wife, all of those things began to change because it became a unit to enhance the other unit that I was called to connect to. Right. And so my ideal of marriage was, and we say it all the time, I am the product of his intelligence. So yeah, you know what I mean? And so what happens is I'm behind the scenes where I'm enhancing whatever he wants to do or whatever he envisions to accomplish. And my goal is, how can I hold up your hands and your arms so that you don't grow weak and you don't lose your reach? So the enhancement of commitment is, you got to understand, it's a compromise, it's a give and take type of thing. But if I've only not taken the time to work on me, when I get to the marriage, I've made that their responsibility to do the work on me.
You know what? I just had this thought, and I think it's probably more so a woman thing than it is a man thing. Why do these women go find these fix-me-uppers?
I don't know.
And I'm thinking that, there's probably something void in you. There's something missing in you. There's something deficient in you that makes you want to go and try to repair.
We like to do renovation projects. we like to make things look the way we want them to look. And so if I get somebody that's already complete, then whereas I can say I did that. You see what I'm saying? Or that was because he liked that because of me. Well, no. let him, and I'm glad I can say I didn't have to fix him up. You know what I mean? I didn't have to do no renovation work. I don't even like
Little touch up, but not
little touch up every now and got to apply a little paint to it. Keep it fresh. Some silly, but
I wasn't the whole project.
He wasn't a project, and so sometimes with projects, it is the ability to say, "Look what I've done."
Which speaks to something wrong.
Yeah, that deficiency, but getting yourself together should be primary. It should be a priority when you are thinking of commitment. You want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward for the very thing that you say you desire and love and want to be in relationship and in commitment with, hopefully for the rest of your life.
Right. I want to present the best me to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So get you together.
Get you together.
Work on you.
That old saying that beauty is only skin deep. Yup. Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah, it's only skin deep, because what happens if you haven't taken the moment to go deeper than your surface?
Once that surface get a little old
and start crumbling and
wrinkled and the surface starts sagging,
cracking, and
you got to go deeper.
You got to go deeper.
So have something to offer.
Listen.
Get you together.
Get you together. Yeah, get you together. Well, you want to make sure. And I mean, my husband asked me a question. What was some of the things that I wish I would have known before I got married? And had I known differently about what credit was and how to that
kind of segues into the next point, is have some life experience.
Oh my goodness.
You need to have some life experience.
Yeah.
And
beyond
I
living in your mother's basement.
But, oh my goodness. Don't marry right out your mama's basement. Don't do that. Don't do that. Have some life experience. Know how to balance a checkbook. And do people still do that?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, it's bigger than Cash App and Venmo and Zelle.
Cash App is your means of banking. No. Get a bank account.
Yeah, establish
some credit. I knew about credit before we got married. I knew how to mess it up. So that was my life experience. But fortunately, her credit wasn't jacked up, but it was just as bad as mine because she didn't have any credit.
I didn't have, and the reality was, I'm thinking I was doing good because I didn't have credit cards, and if I couldn't pay for it with cash, then I wasn't getting it. But then when I went to go get something, it was like, you don't exist in the credit land, and that's just as bad as having bad credit. So then I had to go through the process to establish my credit so that I could do and do what I wanted to do and make sure that we were good. And it wasn't an overnight process. Again, it was something that I had to work at, to establish, to get us the foundation where I thought we needed to be. And I was like, this is too much work. You know what I mean? Like being properly careful with your credit. And now even go take the time to look at your credit and say, you know what? I don't want to get no wife and I'm going to come in with $500,000 of debt. And then we both got to suffer. And all some of that stuff that you ain't been paying, go on and establish a process to get that stuff cut up and cut down.
Having life experience and getting you together really go hand in hand.
Life experiences.
You need some life experience.
If your light bills is in your cousin Mookie's name, if your water bills is in your
wrong experience.
It's the wrong. And you have to begin to have that life experience. And guess what? Some of those life experiences is even knowing that you can travel and be okay. Right? I'm not saying you got to travel alone. It's a little unsafe environment right now. But if you do, have fun. You know what I mean? But be able to say that you have taken the time to come to know you by having your life experiences. And your life experiences has to go beyond your immediate neighborhood.
Hey, I'm glad you said that. Remember when I used to coach Little League Baseball? I coached baseball for many years. And, one of the kids asked me, why are you always taking us somewhere? And I shouldn't have told this story. But anyway, he said, why are you always taking us? Where's a bunch of white people? That's what he said. That's what he said. And I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I wasn't, my mother and my father, they didn't raise us to think we were boxed in. And we grew up in the Lee Harvard area. And I told the young man, I said, listen, the world is a lot bigger than Lee and Harvard.
Yeah.
The world is a lot bigger than Lee and Harvard, and you need to experience the world beyond Lee and Harvard.
And some of the most amazing things are some of the conversations that I have currently with people, and they was like, well, I've never been to the East Side.
That's amazing.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, Cleveland is so big, but I've only been in this area. And I think that's really, really wild to me.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, you don't want to expect that the person that you're, male or female, who are you committing to will know everything. If you don't know how to build a wall, Home Depot teaches classes. Get an experience. If you've never had to repair a toilet, Home Depot offers classes. Get some experiences. If you're going to be the wife and you don't know how to cook, go take a cooking class. Get some experience, exposure.
Makes you more marketable.
It makes you, but better than that, it gives you the ability and the security to say that I at least can maintain my family.
Right.
You know what I mean? That I'm going to be able to help my family be consistent and maintainable. You know what I mean? And so
life experience. Have some stability at a job. Unless you're going to be like this wonderful entrepreneur, and I'm not knocking entrepreneurship
because we believe in it
wholeheartedly.
Oh, we believe in it.
But if you're not an entrepreneur, then at least have some stability working somewhere.
One of the things about your life experiences is you have the ability to learn and go engage where your strength and weaknesses are. So if you know through your life experience that you are not the person to handle the money, when you get to that part and you have these conversations before you get to I do, you can say, listen, my weakness is I can't balance the checkbook because I get money and it goes through my fingers. That is learning your strength and weaknesses. Okay. I know for a fact, for me, I need to make sure, because I'm a very analytical person, I like to have the reassurance that stuff is taken care of before anything else. My house is taken care of, my food is taken care of, my bills are taken care of, and I don't want to have to worry and stress about it. Now, there was in the beginning parts, if we're honest, in the beginning parts, because I believed in that whole scenario, you're the man. This is your role. This is your job. I'm here to make sure the house is taken care of on the inside, but everything else was his responsibility, like making sure the bills are paid, making sure all of those things. And when things start going different, I was like stressing out.
Yeah, and see, I didn't have that same belief.
Yeah.
I didn't have that belief. I was very fine when we came to the conclusion that she was going to take care of the money and managing the money. I was good with that because I'm the spender. If I get money, I'm spending it. I'm spending it on something. And right now, Amazon is his best friend. Like he thinks it, and it shows up on the porch. Like I don't know. It doesn't work for me like that. Amazon app doesn't work like that.
It just doesn't work. I keep trying though. I put many stuff in the cart, and it just sit in the cart, and I be thinking like, why hasn't it appeared yet?
I think about it, and it shows up.
You know,
you need to check your Amazon account.
I need to check it. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. But your life experiences help you to gauge and to understand where your strength and weaknesses are. And when you come to that table, before you get to the I do, we call the table of negotiation, you are able to come to the table and say, this is where I'm weak at. And I want you to know all of me, and I can't hide my weaknesses from you.
And see, if you don't have those experiences, you can't have those conversations.
You can't have that honest conversation.
Don't know you.
Right. And so getting to know you is important so that you know you first before you try to introduce you to anybody else to say, just love me just the way I am. You got to be able to explain the way you are.
Wow. That's good. That's good. So the next point we talk about it in the book, or I talk about it in the book, is talking to some other married people. Find some other married people, and maybe, I know marriage is, and I think, is it 50-50 now, the statistic?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is it 50-50?
Yeah.
I know it was 50-50 a couple years ago. It may not even be that anymore. But, the statistic says that, as far as church marriages, it's about at a 50-50%. 50% of those people get divorced. And, that's kind of discouraging. But there's got to be somebody that you've seen somewhere that kind of gives off a good role modeling relative to marriage. And you need to have some conversation.
And I think one of the questions that we asked before we even started doing the More Marriage Moments was, who is your marriage role model? And a lot of people said that they really didn't have one. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, who do you look up to? Who do you admire? What couple inspires you to be better in your relationship? And, my parents were never married. My grandparents were married. And I realized, they made it to 50 years of anniversary. And I'm thinking, wow, yay, that's amazing. And, and it was amazing to see that. But coming from a family where marriage wasn't successful, I don't want to say not all my family. Okay, I'll take that back. But, I didn't get to see a good, perfect marriage between my mother and my father. You know what I mean? And those were, they're called to be the epitome of role models in our lives. So when I didn't have that, I didn't have anything to base what good marriage looked like. And we talked about one of the couples that inspired me as Bishop and Lady Hilton, John Hilton. And I've watched them for years in their marriage and how he loved his wife, how he interacted, how she interacted, how she supported his ministry, and how she cared for her children, and not just her children, but her spiritual children as well. She was always that ear of wisdom and advice, and it was just wonderful. And those were the building foundations that I had for marriage. And there were other couples. That was Wendy Parks and Jeff Parks. I watched how she cared for her husband and how he made sure she was taken care of. So those are just some examples that I could recall about, good marriage. And of course, coming through the church world, there were a lot of other couples. But, what I do understand is that even in the church, there's a lot of good couples that you see, but sometimes you don't know the backstory.
You don't know the backstory.
Of that. And then when their marriage crumbles, you're crushed. You know what I mean? But having a couple that you can absolutely be naked and not ashamed with, to have some real raw conversations of what marriage entails and looks like, and you're not ashamed to say, hey, I messed up, or I did wrong, or I need to know how to fix this, or how to get my track record to be better as a wife or as a husband. You have to be willing to find someone that you can sit at the table with and have dialogue.
I had, you remember, a childhood friend of mine. We've been knowing each other since first grade. He got married a little later in life, and he came to me and he said, hey, talk to me about marriage. What does a successful marriage look like? How did you know you wanted to be married to your wife? How do you guys communicate? He asked me a series of questions. In fact, I almost want to say it was like he had it written out and he wanted me to give answers to each question. I mean, and that's just a good way to spark dialogue. If you find somebody who's been married for a while and you want to kind of glean from their experience.
Yeah, listen, one thing that a squirrel does is when they know that the winter is coming, what do? They go store up the nuts.
Well,
they go, right? They go gather and they store it up for the seasons when they will need it the most. And that's what talking and having mentorship in marriage looks like. You go gather the nuts, the nuggets.
don't be picking up no nuts. Get the
No, you don't
nuggets.
have to be the squirrel, but you pick up some good nuggets.
It's some nuts out here.
It
It's some
is,
nuts out here,
yeah,
bro.
it is, it is. But gather the nuggets. That's what that conversation should point out. Nuggets and give you some peace of mind that you can recall information to help support you to be the spouse that you need to be for your mate. Because I'm going to tell you right now, listen, this man was cut from the cloth for me.
All right.
The garment, it was like God tried it on to make sure it would fit. And I don't want to go there. To make sure it fit me perfectly. You know what I mean? And so I tell them all the time, I know for a fact, had I followed my agenda to marry who I thought I was going to marry,
my Lord,
I would have been in divorce court probably 6 months later. I probably would have gave it a year, because I'm a stick to it kind of girl. But after so long of a year, I'd have been like, yeah, this is not for me. Deuces. I'm out of here. I got to go. So you have to know you. And you got to be willing to gather the nuggets and have conversations with people that you have given permission to be honest in conversation with you, in dialogue with you.
And that's really
that can
important.
challenge you when you're wrong and say, now, why would you do that? I mean, why would you think that? Mm-hmm. Why do you think he's supposed to take that attitude from you? I mean, really?
And a lot of people can't be that honest because they think they got it all together.
Right. And I don't know about, I call them mentors for life, and I've given them the permission to challenge me, not just in my ministry, not just in my personal life, but even in my marriage as a wife, because they have been good wives. You know what I mean? They've been some good wives. And so if they see me going to the left in my relationship with my husband, they have the right to pull my coattail and say, hey, Renee, you probably want to look at this differently. You probably want to challenge your perception concerning what's happening around you. Because I don't know about you. You ever get to that point where you be like, I don't need nobody. I can do this all on my own. We all have had those segments in the life where we thought, I can do it bad by myself.
On my own.
Right. So find you some married couples that you give permission to be open and honest with you and challenging you and how your relationship is going.
And then the last point that I bring up in this particular chapter of the book is pray. And I know we hit on that. I think that was the first episode. I prayed about what I wanted. I prayed. I told the Lord what I was looking for. I can't, they say save the best for last, and that's probably why I made that the last point for them, those 4 points. But start there.
Yeah.
Start when you are in a place where you know you want to be married, you desire to be married, pray.
I don't even remember what I was watching, but I was watching a show, and it was a man and a woman who had a daughter, and they were bringing their daughter to the show because of her giftedness. I think she knows so many languages, and she's only like 2 years old. But one of the questions that was asked of them is, how did you guys connect and what brought you together? And the man said, in his very, very professional life, because he was a professional, a strong professional. And he says, what I began to do is I sat down at the table and I began to describe to myself the kind of woman that I wanted.
Well,
right?
That's good.
And he began to take notes. He said, this is what I do for my clients, because I believe he was an attorney. He says, when I'm talking to my clients, I take notes, because I want to make sure that I'm hearing what they say they want to happen. Good. And he says, and it dawned on him that he needed to take notes of himself. Mm-hmm. And so some of the times you don't even have a clue as to what you believe you deserve or want in a spouse or a wife or a husband. And you don't even know that because you haven't begun to take notes for yourself about what you believe you deserve in a mate.
Wow.
What do you desire in a mate. How do you want your mate? And get beyond, they got to be 6'2", lifting 380 pounds, buff and cut out and sketched out.
I was lifting 385 when you met me.
I know, baby.
I was lifting.
I was about to say something. We on live. We on live. But you have a moment to jot down notes. And then when you get your notes, you don't have to say, God, your prayer don't have to be all over the place. It can be very specific as to what you're looking for in a mate. Because the truth of the matter is, and my husband can tell you, I wasn't the first thing that fit his bill. Right?
Absolutely.
And
she wasn't. I had historically dated little petite women.
Yeah. And I dated some tall, thick, and because that's what I thought I needed. That was what I thought was necessary for me to be what I thought as a good woman. And it was total opposite.
Wow.
It was nothing. But the characteristics that, I asked God for, he gave that to me. God, give me this. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a man that will love me like you love me. I'm looking for a man that can love me just as much as he loves you, God. Like, listen, because if a man can love God with all of his heart, he wouldn't have a problem loving me with his heart. Because he's not intimidated in love. Right. So, those things, you have to have notes for yourself. And then you can become more specific and more direct in your communication about what you desire as a mate.
That's good. Know what you do. You know what you... It's an old song. I've been thinking of songs. Do you know what you're looking for? Something that old song. Same thing in life. You can apply that song to your life. What are you looking for? Take some notes. What are you looking for? What are your expectations? And this is before you get to where you believe you found what you're looking for. You need to know first. Don't just stumble up on something, and don't leave things to chance. And you're not going to probably know, you're not going to know everything. No. You're not going to know everything before you get married. You're just not.
You're not.
You've never lived together. You're not going to know everything. But at least you have a gauge and a roadmap, something to spark those conversations. And we talked again about that table of negotiation. We've had these dialogues. We have these dialogues. Hey, if this happened, how you feel about that? What are your thoughts about this? And because life does happen, and it happens real fast, and it's good. The old adage, it's better to have have a plan. It's better to have a plan. If you fail to have a plan, you plan to fail.
There it is. You did it. He did
Something about planning. I know it's good to have a plan.
Gotta have a plan.
So I think that a lot of times we just blindly go into relationship, blindly go into marriage, and say we are in love because of those warm, fuzzy feelings. But we fail to have a plan.
We like to say, I just fell in love. Stop falling. Walk in love. Walk with your eyes wide open.
Wide open.
Know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Some folks is just falling, and never get up. Falling. And you can't figure out why you always down, why you always sad and depressed, because you keep falling in love. You're not walking with your eyes wide open, knowing exactly what you deserve and what you know you don't deserve. You got to walk with your eyes open. Yeah, you know what I mean? And be willing to say, I don't deserve to be loved like that if it doesn't look like what you know it should look like. So those are the types of things when you say, you ready to do, I remember the conversation, in our marriage counseling, as I don't know how long we had, but in our marriage counseling, you said, I'm going to run my house. And I got a little nervous, y'all, because I was like, wait a minute. We not going to make it to the altar if he come talking crazy. But the fact that he was willing to run the washing machine, the dishwasher, the vacuum cleaner, the stove, all of the other things that make up keeping the house together, allowed me to see that his commitment was bigger than the bedroom.
All right.
I
right.
don't want to go all off into that.
All right.
But it was willing to work alongside of me as a partner. And that's what getting to the point of saying I do. Are you willing to enter into partnership with a strong commitment for life?
There you go. It's all about that life commitment.
Yeah. So
Stop cheapening marriage. One of the things I talk about, and we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. I asked a question in the question section. How do you feel about divorce?
ooh, yeah.
And I think that that's something you need to really consider yourself. I personally, being my parents divorced. Actually, I think I had just finished high school and they divorced. And it was kind of like, it was one of those things where they only stayed together because, my mother didn't want to raise a male child without a man in the house. And, I get her reasoning. But, it really gave me a being that the relationship had been toxic for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that going into marriage, I did not want to do that. Again, I'm not like advocating divorce. I'm not saying divorce is great or that's what you should do. But what you shouldn't do is be in such a toxic relationship that it damages you, that it hurts you, that you're affected, that your life is jacked up because you're trying to remain into something that just isn't working.
Oh, man.
How about that?
Yes, your do has to last beyond the ceremony.
Yeah.
It has to. There's an old song, and this used to come on 93 FM. So y'all know how long ago that was, right? And I don't even know who made the song. Mm-hmm. But there was a song that says, I do love you. I love you. I love you.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just told my age, y'all. I went really, really far back. But that song popped in my head. And
I posted the other day, marriage requires that you love beyond your feelings.
That is a daily reminder of saying to yourself, I do. Right? I do. And that means keep your word with your I do. Keep your commitment. Keep your heart intact. You know what I mean? And so your I do has to happen every single day.
Absolutely.
Every single day.
Well, this week we don't have a marriage hero couple. Nobody submitted anyone's name. And so I'm going to throw this up real quick. Hey, email us at moremarriagemoment@gmail.com if you would like to submit a married couple who you watched, that you've seen, that they have a successful, I didn't say perfect, I said a successful marriage, right, that you would like us to feature on this show. We would love to shout out some good, strong married couples in our future episodes. So do that. Email us, go to our Facebook page and drop something in the inbox. However you want to connect with us, please do that because we want to celebrate married couples.
Yes,
all right?
We want to celebrate them.
Next week, we've got special guests next week. We're bringing in another couple, and next week's topic is going to be the secret ingredients to a long marriage.
Secret ingredients to a long marriage.
How about that?
All right.
I just made that up.
You did.
But,
I was like, wait, what happened?
Something like that.
Okay.
But we did plan on having guests with us next week. So please make sure you watch us next week. We're going to have some guests. Do us a favor. Go ahead and subscribe. If you've been watching, please subscribe. We're trying to get to that 100 barrier, that 100 subscriber barrier. Mm-hmm. And we're a little short. So help us break 100.
Come on, guys.
And then tell some people about our page on Facebook and like that page and share and tell people about us and all that great stuff. We're excited about doing this. We've received some emails, some inboxes from people who have told us that this has helped them. It's helped their marriage. And that's really our desire is to encourage people who are married and who desire to be married. You can do this.
And enjoy it while you're doing it.
And enjoy it while you're doing it. I think that's it for today. We ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready.
Join us next week. We're going to have special guests. Don't miss it. We're going to have secret ingredients to a long marriage. See you later.
You've got a friend in